If you could mute your mics for a second, please. Thank you.
Me?
Yeah, everybody. Check. House of Harley Radio, y'all. This is your boy DJ Shea Butter, aka Shea Harley. That's what you know me as out here in these digital streets, as my good mentor, Miss Roshonda Pratt would say. And to my left, I have Miss Talina. See what's going on? Is your mic on? Yeah, COVID, y'all. Yeah, yeah. It's 2020 is a trip, and we've lost a lot of loved ones. I have lost in my family, through COVID, car accidents, you name it, and I just seen enough. So, my prayers out to you and your family. And this is not the first time for you with losing somebody due to COVID-19. So my prayers up to you. So and shout out to your father and your whole entire family. So we're gonna be all right. Hopefully this show can help you. Yes. So hey y'all, there's a shift going on. If you haven't been paying attention, there's definitely a big shift happening out here in this universe. Um, I, I'm an empath person, and I feel a lot of things. Like I feel everything. And when I get around people, it's like I just take in all their energy. And 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 this whole year, 2020, has been a complete trip. I feel like something big is going to happen. Well, I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but something is in the air and something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't. It could be related to COVID. I don't know, but there's a shift happening, and let me tell you why there's a shift happening. So, you know, I've been noticing lately that you know I'm gonna give an example. And I posted it on my Facebook page. So if you follow me, you can go and look at it and see where I'm going with this. So if there's like 100 people outside, standing outside, and it's daytime, and the sky is blue. Like say 100 people is standing outside and the sky is blue, and everybody visibly look up in the air, and the sky is blue. And out of those 100 people, like everybody should say the sky is blue, right? Right? They should. And so I'm noticing lately what's going on with everything that's going on with COVID, school reopenings, you name it, everything that's going on, the government's federal and state government's response to COVID-19. I'm noticing that you know everybody has these different opinions, but they're seeing it with their very own eyes. They're seeing it with their eyes. They're touching it. They're feeling it. They're looking at it. They're seeing it. And with that example, there's 100 people looking outside, looking at the sky as blue, and they're perfectly fine. They're not colorblind or nothing. But out of that 100 people, about a good number, about 40 people look up at that sky, and they'll all come up with a different color of the sky when the sky is obviously blue. And I sit back and I'm kind of seeing that happening in today's world right now. And I'm like taken aback and I'm like, what's going on? Something's going on. Do y'all feel it? Something's going on. Right. It's spiritual. What I'm coming down to, this is spiritual warfare, y'all. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of things happening, and it's the spiritual thing. There's a shift happening. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but whatever it is, I pray that we all prepare for it and we all get ready for it. If you're not worried about it, then I guess you're going to deal with the consequences on the other end. But if you're an empath, if you just kind of look around, and even with school, what we're going to be talking about tonight, school reopenings, um, the obvious answer is the obvious answer. It's there, but for some reason, there's a lot of people that just have a completely different answer, and it's the margin is so wide. It's like it's unbelievable to me. And so that's my opening rant for today. This is House Harley Radio. I used to do opening rants, and I'm going to bring them back. Um, and I like to thank my special guest that we're going to be having on the show today. Um, and tonight we're just going to go ahead, as everybody's tuning in, everybody's sharing. What I want you guys to do, we're going to play a video. We're going to play a video by Tiffany J. I love you, black man. And and once we play that video, we're going to come back. So as we're playing the video, if you guys are out there in Facebook land, we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope, we're on Twitch, we're even on Twitch. Can you believe it? We're going to be on TV real soon. And it's not that I'm claiming it. We're going to be on TV real soon. But but just share the show, and we'll be right back. House Harley Radio. Let's go. What is that in back? You can't hear it, can you? House Harley Radio. That was Tiffany J. Uh, I reached out to Tiffany J earlier, and I was like, Tiff, how did you not get me in that video? And she was like, I put the message out there, and you didn't respond, so I felt bad. But we'll get into that next video. All right, so we're gonna get into the show. I'm really excited because we're getting the teacher take about school reopenings, how they feel about school reopenings, and do they feel safe about school reopenings? And we're getting ready to do this, and we're excited about it. And we're excited about this, and we're ready to go. Okay, I was told I was echoing. I know why. I just muted it. Technology people, please bear with us. So we got a panel of guests that we're excited to talk to here. And I want to thank y'all for waiting and being patient with me. And we're going to get on and talk today. So you were going to go ahead and get on. First up, we have Miss Lachey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good, good, good. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you.
Good, and I can hear you too. Great. So tell us what district that you're in, and what grade you're teaching.
So I am a teacher in Richmond School District 2, and I currently teach 5th grade.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So, and she's
It's frozen.
being.
I didn't hear you. You were frozen for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said you didn't mention it, but I guess you're kind of being like a little bashful, I guess maybe. But you are the teacher of the year, right?
I was teacher of the year 2018, 2019, and a district teacher of the year finalist that same year.
Wow, awesome, awesome. And I kind of see that you were doing a lot of traveling, not like recently, but
No, not.
yeah, I was kind of stalking your pictures.
I love to travel. Most recently, I think was Hawaii with my family, but last summer I traveled to Ghana to teach. And so I was there for the summer teaching and working with teachers in Kumasi, Ghana. We were supposed to go back this year, but of course COVID canceled all those plans. So I love to travel.
Right, and so I saw some pictures that you look like you traveled to Africa.
I did. I was in Kumasi, Ghana last summer working with teachers there.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna keep it going because we got a big lineup. We got Miss Odessa Hilton. What's going on?
What's up? What's up?
What's up?
What it is?
What it do?
What it do? It did it. It did it.
Yeah, that's my sister right there.
Hey, bro, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
So, tell us, what district are you in?
I am in Richland 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. And you made sure that I said it.
Yes. You go ahead.
You know, you keep reminding me, and I keep saying, really? I keep like going, really? You are a teacher of the year too.
Currently, yes, for the upcoming 2020-2021 school year. Yes, I am.
So you got
7th grade teacher. Go ahead, clap it up. Go ahead, do that. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, all the colleagues and everybody that voted for me. Thank you. I appreciate this. I'll take this so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mama.
That's what's up. You're supposed to put the belt on. You got the championship. You got the championship belt.
Okay, it got a new belt now. It's called it's a T.
It's T.
It's T. Yeah.
We'll take that. Good to have you on the show. Thank you. And
next up we have
Miss. No problem. Next up we got Miss Sydney Van Bullock. Did I say that right?
Van Bullock.
Yeah, I got it right. See, I got it.
So I teach in Charleston County. I teach in an early Childhood, which is our preschool, and it's a Head Start blend classroom. So some of our students are Head Start, but not all of them. But they are all in the same class. It's confusing, but
Okay, awesome. Thank you for responding, and thank you for agreeing to come on the show.
of course.
We're definitely going to have some good spirited dialogue about everything that's going on. Next up, look, this dude right here, I don't know if he knows, but I'm just gonna sound like really weird right now. This dude is like, he doesn't know it. We have a mutual friend. His mutual friend maybe told him. But like I have like this like man crush on this guy because he has like this excellent voice and he's like super duper intelligent. And like I'm telling y'all, this dude, like y'all, the ladies on the y'all gonna be listening and y'all be like, man, like Sydney knows. Sydney knows what's up, don't you? That's not, look, it's not weird. AJ, I hope it's not weird, but I admire you, brother. Brother, I admire you. You're a cool brother. I completely admire you. Like, if I could copy certain like your voice and all that other stuff, I take your voice because I hate my voice. So what's going on, AJ? You gotta unmute your mic.
All right, bro. Well, listen, you kind of set me up on this one. I want to say thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to the other wonderful, talented, beautiful teachers on this panel as well. I'm honored to be in your presence. I'm honored, Shay, to be on your show. The feeling is mutual. I love the work you do. I love your commitment to community change. I love your advocacy for your kids. And again, it's a beautiful thing to see. And of course, I'm in Charleston County. I work at one of the best high schools in the world, Burke High School. 100+ years of history coming through these halls every day. And currently I'm the auditorium manager for the school. So I don't necessarily have a classroom, but I interact with all the kids from, actually we have a middle school on our campus as well. So middle to 12th grade. So yeah.
Right. And look, it don't matter where you at. Like you're like it's an upgrade anywhere you are, man. It's like, am I sounding weird right now? Am I good? But yeah, but anyway, so we're gonna get right into it, y'all. So the school year is approaching. It's here. If anybody's been under a rock for the past like 6 months, we've been going through a pandemic. A lot has happened in 2020. I guess for me, it kind of started when I felt like I had the coronavirus, and this happened like prior to 2019 or 2020, and I was sick for like two and a half months. And after that, after being sick, and then Kobe Bryant died, I was actually at the hospital when the report came in about Kobe Bryant dying, and then the whispers about coronavirus, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And here we are, a full-blown pandemic. A lot of things have been done, a lot of things haven't been done. We have a president in office that attempted to try to take the lead, but in my eyes, I feel like he has pretty much washed his hands of it, and he's backed up away from it, and he's moving on to think about November. And if you don't know about November, that's when the election is. So, if you missed my show, our show, what was that, Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday, yeah. We did our show Tuesday. I was taken aback about how the narrative changed from, we're all gonna die during coronavirus, and now suddenly we're talking about opening schools. But I'm like, wait, why are we talking about opening schools now? And we're still in the middle, we're not even at the end of it. The administration is making us believe that we're at the end of it, and we're not. I feel like we're not. I think we're smack dab right in the middle of it. And numbers are increasing. South Carolina is one of the hot spots in the United States. Georgia, Florida, you name it. You have hot spots that were, spots back earlier like New York. They're not as hot as South Carolina. South Carolina is actually higher. So that's definitely something to be worried about. So now I felt like the narrative changed. I feel like it was like, what happened to solving coronavirus? Like, we didn't solve coronavirus. Like, can we solve coronavirus first before we get into starting school? And that's just my opinion, broad opinion about it. So now the talk has happened, and the president wanted to get schools started face to face 5 days a week and all this other stuff. And our governor followed suit and was like, yeah, we should go right back to doing 5 days a week, face to face instruction, school instruction. And I don't know. My take on it is that we are not even close to being prepared to send our children back to school, our teachers, faculty, staff. I just feel like we're just not ready. And so much has happened. Just to kind of get everybody up to date, if you haven't been paying attention what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to the teachers about, with all the information that you guys know thus far, because a lot of information has been going around. Molly Spearman has met with the State House and gave her information about school openings and what the districts handed over their plans as of, I believe it was last Friday. And I guess decisions at this point, and you guys probably can educate me more, decisions are about to be made about schools opening. I know when my children are in District 1, they're talking about opening schools August 31st. And I have to correct myself from the last show. I was saying September 31st, and I was not correct. It was August 31st. So given what we know, right, to the teachers, and I'm gonna start with you, Lachey. Given what you all know about what's going on with starting schools and all the information that has been passed down, do you feel comfortable with starting schools? You as a teacher, are you ready to go back in the classroom, or is that something that you're not looking to do right now at this moment because you might feel like it's not safe?
Well, I think that every teacher wants to go back to the classroom. That's our kind of wishful thinking. We would love to be in the classroom with our kids. And just to clear up a lot of things that I've heard, a lot of people feel like teachers are okay with being at home and not being in the school building. But the last thing we want is to have to continue to teach virtually. But no, I'm not comfortable going back into the school building. I know tons of teachers who I work with, teachers who I don't work closely with, but nobody is ready to go back into the classroom. You have to think of it this way. In March, we had a district holiday. I believe it was March 10th. We got the email, got the information that we would have to stay home because of COVID-19. And in our state at that time, I believe we were under what, 50 people, 50 deaths, and majority of those were elderly who were in nursing homes. Our numbers are very low, and now we are going into August, and we are at a record high. So I don't understand what transpired between March and August for people to feel like it's okay for us to enter into a school building when you close our buildings in March and we had less than 100 deaths in the state, across the state. So I don't think any teacher is comfortable going back into the building. And to be honest, when we look at CDC guidelines, it's not possible to follow those guidelines with the population that we have in many districts across South Carolina. Even with transportation, we don't have enough transportation across the state. A lot of schools are at capacity, classrooms are at capacity, so it's just not possible. So in a nutshell, no, I'm not ready to go back in the building. I know a lot of other teachers who are also not ready to go back in the building because it's just not safe.
Right, okay. Odessa? She's like, hey,
Sorry,
where
I
am
gotta
I?
get my.
Where is I?
Hello, I'm here. You got me?
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I needed to get my unmute. Sorry.
Now you good. This is technology, it's all good.
I was taking some notes. First of all, I wanted to say thank you so much again for the opportunity. And before I begin, I wanted to let anyone who's listening, whether it's the president or not the president or the superintendent, I need to put that disclaimer out that these are my concerns or my opinions and my words and not those of Richland One. This is a right to work state, and anything that I say is my opinion. I need to make sure that is clear and crystal clear.
Definitely.
Odessa, let me jump in and say I agree with that disclaimer. We want
Yes.
people to know that these are our personal opinions, nothing that's reflective of our district or anything like that.
That's
Thanks
right.
for saying that, Odessa.
Yes, most definitely. And also, when you ask the question about, given what we know, do we feel comfortable with starting schools? I was thinking about a commercial, and you remember that commercial that came out that they were saying it's a commercial with the lady she's in her hospital bed, and her son is saying, what? Oh, you got coverage? What? You're not even in perfect health. And then the mom says, well, I know. Well, we may not be prepared, but with the virus, will we ever be? So at this point, we need to be thinking about the pros and cons of returning or staying virtual or making other decisions, and at what point we change to make those decisions. Now, I am an advocate for virtual learning at this point. There is another district that is doing virtual for the first 6 weeks. I think that's a perfect opportunity to do that. We also need to think about, like I said, the pros and cons. Going back to school will allow us to give those students the opportunity to be holistically taken care of. That includes their emotional, mental, social, physical, spiritual well-being. Some of those students need to interact with others other than people within their own households. And I understand that there is still a medical issue that is underlying, and is everybody going to be safe? Okay, and also listening to the South Carolina House Committee speak, they're also concerned with this, okay? Also, we had to listen to and think about the special education needs of the children who have IEPs, 504, other hearing impaired documentation. Without those services and them coming to school, how can we provide them for them? It's a bit difficult trying to give that to them if we're actually at home, we're actually virtual, okay? And so what's the other concern? The other concern is making those connections with the kids. Now, I pride myself on not just doing the best I can to teach them everything they need to know, plus everything else that goes with becoming the great citizens that they should be from one day to the next, but making those connections is really good to try to make that connection. A long white cord that's plugged into the if you can be face to face with them. So that connection is missing. And if we're also thinking about the child, there are so many children that are not eating because they're not in school. Okay, now let's look at the sickness part of it. There are things being put in place, like I saw today on the news. There is this chemical, or not chemical, this cleaning thing. It's called a medical graded disinfectant that they're going to be using for the schools and the buses. So I appreciate that. So there's something else every day that they're trying to do to make it better. Now, in a regular everyday will span of time, we have adults and children that are regularly out there that should be staying home, but they don't if they're regularly sick and they're normally sick. So if we figure out a way that we can protect ourselves from the virus, then we can continue to go out and do this. If you're looking on the TV, you always see somebody without a mask. Okay, so what can we do as adults to do our due diligence to be safe? And how can we spread it on? But not just a mask, because I know if I'm having a hard time breathing, I need to find something that's going to be better so I can last for 6 to 8 hours. So let's figure out how we can help everybody holistically, because some of these things that these kids are missing, they still need. What did they say? There was like still so many kids that they have. So I do have both sides. I am for and I'm against. So I'm still on the fence, but I do understand the need to go back, and I do understand the need to remain virtual.
Those are a lot of good points that you hit. I'm sorry, I was on mute. That you hit, and it's definitely so for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you looking to go into the classrooms, or you just still feel like it's not safe to enter?
I'm looking to begin virtually so we can get all of the things that we need to do, like the product that they're starting to clean with, make sure we have all of those in place. Like all the instruments that we need, all the PPEs, all of the things that we need to make sure our building can be cleaned efficiently and effectively, and the kids can be taught efficiently and effectively about cleaning. All of that education needs to happen first. Even the education for how the adults need to be responding to how that works. Because a lot of our adults, they look at the trash can and think it's somebody else's job. So we all need that education. Just like every year we have to get educated on, bloodborne pathogens. Make also a yearly, monthly, bi-monthly thing, but for everybody.
Right.
We're gonna have to go back. The virus is not going anywhere.
Right. Okay.
Is it gonna, look at 1917. I was talking to my husband about the virus, which was influenza in 1917. How long did it stay around? It stayed around for a year, if not longer. So we're going to be dealing with this for quite a while. So we have
quite a long time.
Right. So we have to learn how we can deal with it and go outside and be able to be safe. So we have to educate ourselves on how to do that outside.
Okay, Sydney, where are you at on this whole thing? Like, are you feeling comfortable that you're ready to hit the grounds going 5 days a week, face to face? Went from 6 feet social distancing down to 3. So are you ready for that?
Well, first of all, I would like to echo these two wonderful women and say that everything that I say are my own thoughts, my own feelings. They do not represent that of the district or the state or whoever. They are my own. But no, I full-heartedly think that we need a hard virtual start. And there are definitely complications that come with it, and we can address those. But first and foremost, all of those things that Odessa brought up, okay, well, I'm someone that has my own mental health problems, so I understand the importance behind that. But if I die, then, my mental needs that's not going to matter anymore because I'm dead. And the same thing goes for children. Like, we can't address those bigger issues if we're not looking at the number one priority, which has to be safety right now. Beyond that, just a couple of metaphors or whatever for you. I was on Facebook this morning and I saw this post that a teacher had written about. She was a computer lab teacher, and she kind of walked through the first 5 minutes of class where one kid comes in eating an apple and throws the apple in the trash can and then licks their fingers and then goes on to the keyboard. And then there's another kid that's a nail biter and this and that. And she's telling this whole story. And she's like, oh, by the way, I teach high school. Like, this is high school. So imagine middle school, elementary school. And I commented on it and I was like, listen, I teach preschool. I'm the thing that's getting licked. It's not the keyboard. Like, I'm the thing that's getting licked. And, you know, there's a real reality when you're talking about 4-year-olds where you're social distancing. That's not a thing. Like, there's you can try your best. But then, like Odessa was talking about the social emotional aspect of it, I fear on the other spectrum of it, if we bring these kids in too early, there's going to be a real social emotional issue. I mean, I think about the first week of school every year, the first at least 3 to 4 days, but a lot of times up to the first 2 weeks. The main thing that we are doing is just teaching these children that they do not need to be afraid of school. Like, I have these kids that are coming in, a lot of them don't speak English. And so they're coming into a brand new environment where people are speaking a different language from them. And I have to be able to comfort them. I have to be able to hold them and give them that love and support. Well, how am I going to do that with a face mask on and saying, you have to stay over there? That's going to be incredibly damaging to these children. So for me, that the mental health concern is on the other side of it. Like, we have to weigh the whole thing. Now, all of those things that Odessa brought up are very important as well, but we have to figure out creative ways in the time being to address them until it is safe for us to enter the building, because right now it's just not safe. I mean, and people want to talk about, well, children aren't being affected. One of the things that we haven't really talked about is the fact that since March, children have not really been around each other very much. So we don't really know fully the big picture of how they're going to be effective. What I know is that the children that have been in daycares, we've seen a lot of daycares being shut down because of COVID. I've seen an entire family get knocked out with COVID because 2 kids went to summer camp, and within a few days, the whole family had it. The baby, both kids, the parents,
Wow.
everything. And so
Wow.
to sit here and say that it's completely safe for kids, they may not be dying from it, but they're certainly getting it. And if you're bringing it into a home where you're living and it's, you know, maybe they're not passing it along to people in the grocery store, but think about your kids when they get the flu, they come home, they want to be held, they want to be in your arms, you're sharing the same air. We don't know. That's the key thing, is we don't know what it's going to look like if we go back.
It's a feeling? Do you think it's a feeling of, like, maybe some of the people that's making all the decision, do you think, like, maybe they didn't experience, like, any loss in their families due to COVID, or do you think it's maybe ego, or do you think it's probably fear? What do you think it is that's driving these decisions?
There's so many different levels to it. No, the first one that you mentioned is maybe they haven't been affected. What we have seen across the board, and the same as we see with just about every disparity, that when our families, our Black communities, our Hispanic communities, our communities in poverty, they're getting hit harder, and they're getting it harder for a lot of different reasons. One, lack of health care. A lot of times you've got older family members living in the same home. So we're seeing on a big scale our lower income families being hit harder. So yeah, these people that are in Columbia talking from their podiums, they aren't living the same life that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. And so they're not being hit by it. Also, unfortunately, we've seen this pandemic become a political game of tug of war. And we're talking about people's lives and death, and that should not be a political thing. Like, all of a sudden, staying alive is left and the economy is right. There's a way to bring that to the middle. You know, I really, really, truly understand that the childcare situation is a problem. I understand that people's bosses are not being understanding, and people need to get back to work. But I totally get that, but that should not fall on the education system. Our job is to educate children. Our job is not to be a babysitter. So the fact that we are now in an economic shutdown, that falls on our government. That does not fall on the backs of teachers, and it should not be our responsibility to risk our lives because our government was not there to protect our people.
Yes, yes, yes. Good take. AJ, so where are you at on this? Are you feeling like we're ready to jump into this thing? Or are you like, whoa, they whoa.
So again, the disclaimer that everybody else said is that how I feel, and anybody that follows me on social media knows that I'm pretty vocal, but I'm also fair, and so I think. Much like everybody else, my opinion, of course, is that it's too early. But I want to also add something to echo Sydney said as well. Um, pretty much all of us and everybody is pretty much alive now for the most part. This is the first time we've ever been through anything like this. And I understand that there's a lot of things that take place that many people probably don't have a plan for. But I think what should be considered first and foremost, when we start talking about schools and we start talking about opening schools, let's look at what's happening. We have major corporations, major businesses that are deciding to forego profits because they don't want to take the risk of what's happening. You've got sports teams that are deciding, okay, we're not going to have fans in our stands. We'll have the athletes, and even that's a risk. When we start talking about school, we have to realize too that we're talking about having multiple individuals in an enclosed space. And let's start talking about the state of some of our schools. We have school buildings that have faulty air conditioning systems. We have school buildings that have windows that may not open all the way. So, to say that, okay, we're going to put kids in and we're going to practice social distancing. Yeah, but is that really worth the cost? And then furthermore, I want to go to the other issues that I keep hearing folks talk about. And one of the things that people have to understand is the school system has been a catch-all, true indeed, for a lot of the social issues that everybody referenced. But that's been part of the problem. And during COVID, it should be noted that local government as well as the school system got money specifically to address many of the concerns that we're talking about. The problem is that in many cases that money and the systems to make people feel safe has not been put in place. I'm one of those people. I'm already back at work. So just in case anybody's wondering, I'm at work. I went back to work this week. So in my position, I'm not necessarily somebody that is in contact with the kids, but I'm trying to set up my space because I have a large space. I have a 861 person capacity auditorium. So trying to mark out where social distancing guidelines can apply, that I bring my capacity down to a little over 100, 150. That's how significant this is. And so I think a virtual start, of course, is good, but I think we also need to look at truly our public health system, because while we're talking about starting school, we also have to look at what the experts, and I got to say this, I'm no epidemiologist, okay? I don't work in the medical field. My ex-wife is a nurse. She was in New York at the start. She just came back this week. So I listen to people like her. I listen to the people who deal with public health. And when they're saying we have to get to a point where the numbers are safe, I think we should listen. And so, it's problematic for me when I hear people saying, okay, we can go back. So let's say we start in September. Experts are saying we still have to look at traditional flu season, which will come around November, December, where we can possibly see another spike. Yeah. So there are many variables that need to be taken into consideration, but I wouldn't be me if I didn't say that this was stuff that was known in March. In March, When we shut down the first time, plans should have been put in place, contingencies should have been put in place, but instead, February, about 2 weeks before it really hit here in South Carolina, our current president of the United States was in my city, North Charleston, South Carolina, at a rally calling what we are dealing with right now a Democratic hoax. So, yeah, we're at a point right now where this is the failure of leadership to act in accordance with the information that they were given. So, as teachers, as educational professionals, we shouldn't have to be sitting here trying to figure out what's going on when there were people who should have been putting these things in place with multiple contingencies before now.
Man, I know your phone is on fire, boy. Lord Jesus. And so, yeah, and you brought up a lot of interesting points because, you know, I just started thinking about the day of a teacher. Like, there was a lot of, like, before I started doing House Harley Radio, I had spent a lot of times being angry with teachers sometimes, I guess back then I just didn't understand the full complexity of a teacher. And so as I started doing House Harley Radio and doing events and doing events for SC for Ed, we're actually working on a documentary with SC for Ed, and I started thinking about. I ended up realizing that educators, faculty, and staff is not on y'all. Y'all go through so much. You guys go through so much, and so now I'm like, I understand, and it's like now I'm looking at this situation now that it is popped off, and it's going on, and I sit back and I'm like, man, the faculty and staff already have so much that's on their plates. I started instantly thinking like, how are you guys going to execute? And that's why I wanted to have you guys on the show. Like, how are you guys going to execute what the state and federal guidelines that they're asking y'all to do? And I instantly started thinking, you brought up an interesting point, like air conditioning filters. Have any of the schools disinfected the entire school? You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that is what I start thinking about. And it's like I'm thinking about like how would you guys, do you guys know how you would handle like, students that aren't doing social distancing? Like, have you guys thought about that? Like, if you laying in bed at night, like, whew, how am I going to do this?
Can
Yeah,
I speak?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, another thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, a lot of people are talking about, but people that are making the decisions aren't talking about, is the fact that, especially in elementary schools, we have that 24-hour fever rule. So if you have a fever, we'll send you home and you can't come back for 24 hours. So what a lot of our parents have figured out is that if you give your kid Motrin, right, 30 minutes before you drop them off to school, they're not going to have that fever.
They're not going to have a fever.
Right. Okay. And I get it. Like sometimes kids have fevers for like silly things and you got to go to work, whatever. I get it. I understand the complexity of working in a school like the one that I work in. But when you're talking about a pandemic, you start to think about these patterns that you've seen in the past. And that's one that I am genuinely concerned about. Because if you have a kid who the parents have decided, oh, it's just like a little cough or whatever, they give them Motrin, drop them off. All of a sudden, my whole classroom's been exposed. And it might have been, innocent, but still, like, that's one thing that it's definitely going to be an issue. And I think about the not all cleaning staff is created equally, so like some teacher, even within one school, you may have some cleaning staff. And let's be very realistic here. That's because we don't pay them. Like they do not get paid a decent wage. And so if you're not paying your employees a decent wage, they're not going to come in with that same work ethic that others might come in with. But as someone who is, you know, thinking about my life, I'm a pretty healthy person, but even on my team right now, we have 3 cancer survivors. Only 2 of us are, well, now 3 of us are within like that age bracket that is considered safe. I mean, out of 8 people, we have 5 people that are high risk. And that, you know, that makes me nervous. It's a lot of people, like, if I go back to school, I'm going to have to make that choice not to see my parents for a full year. And so there's a lot of things that personal sacrifices that we're going to have to make. And I keep coming back to the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, if we go back to school, people are going to die. That's just statistically a fact. And how many lives are we willing to risk? 1, 2, 100, 200, 1,000? Like, we don't know. But to me, 1 is enough. Like, that's one person dies, and that's.
I agree with Sydney. And I think a lot of people who are not in the education system, they don't understand the operations behind it. So let's say I have a student I have students in my class, about 18 students, and one of those students is exposed to COVID. They come to school, again, like Sydney said, mom gave them Tylenol, Motrin, or whatever the case may be to fever off. But now they've exposed everybody in the classroom, including myself, with to COVID. So now we have to follow CDC guidelines, and every one of those students in that class has to now quarantine, including myself. And I'm in elementary school, so that's I guess we can look at it like a community style situation where the kids don't move around. But what if we were in middle and high school where those kids moved around? We now have to track where every one of those kids went throughout the building, and that's just impossible in middle and high school. And everywhere that they went, anybody they came in contact with, now they have to now be quarantined. If that child went to music, reading, and social studies, those 3 teachers are now out. We don't have a large substitute pool, so where are the subs going to come from? And then if we do get subs in that building, that entire class is quarantined because that one child exposed everybody to COVID. So you have to look at it in that way as well. People tend to look at us like we're babysitters or this and that, however they want to look at us. But the fact of the matter is, if someone gets sick, everybody's now back at home where they didn't want you to be in the first place because we have to quarantine. So it's just much safer for everybody right now, starting off, to stay home and keep things virtual, to keep it in a safe space.
And like, to bounce off of you, Lachey, if we can set up the best scenario right now, we can put in the infrastructure to have the best possible virtual right now. But if we go back and then we've got some classes going virtual because that's a mess. But so we can put in right now the infrastructure to set us up for success, or who knows what it's going to be. And like, think about siblings. So Lachey's got a student in her class now has COVID while their sister is in the class across the hallway. Now that class has all been exposed. And then they got a brother in the middle school. Now that all of those kids are exposed, like, it's going like boom, real quick. So it's a lot to think about.
And also we also have to think about what the school as an entity is. The bottom line is always about money. That's the hard truth right there.
What is the money piece? Like
money.
I've heard that. So tell me what's the money piece about? Because I don't understand.
Well, depending on what school it is, and depending on, because every school in South Carolina, first of all, has a certain number of kids. Okay. Now, if your kids are in special education and you're at school A, you may be getting a certain amount of money because you have this many students in special ed, or because of the kids' performance at another school, school B might be entitled to certain amount of school funds and be called a Title I school. because of their ability or progress, then that school may be able to get funds because, like I just said, because of the progress or the scores that they have. So if they're not up to par, then that school gets extra money to house extra services like tutoring programs and whatnot. Other schools, we'll say school C, they may already have a tutoring program to keep those students up or make them proficient. So all the schools have some type of money per capita per child for whatever service that school needs, depending on where that school is. Like Hopkins is definitely different from how much Han gets because of the environment that the school is in. And if your school is highly populated with special ed, you need services for those special ed students. And if your school, like Hopkins, is in the middle of nowhere, most of the kids have to be bused. So those kids are going to have the monies to give them the transportation to get to that school. So there is money, unfortunately, is the key to running. If you can't prove that the Title I school is using the money for the services that they have allocated to say that they are Title I worthy, then they're not going to be getting that money. It's all about that. And that's the bottom line. It's not about, unfortunately, they're not trying to be disrespectful and rude and say, okay, we don't care about lives or anything like that. But also we have to actually realize where we work right now. South Carolina is a right to work state. If we decide not to do A, B, or C, whether it's in our contract or not, whatever we believe personally or professionally or ethically, then they could say, okay, well, you decide not to come, we can replace you. We can.
Has that threat been out there? Has it gotten that far yet?
No, but I could say for me, no, I don't know. I can't say that for everybody because it's still a right to work state. They don't have to employ you. We don't have a union. This is not a unionized state. So you still gotta realize we may think we're putting our families in danger, but there are still teachers are probably the only ones who still had to work. And you still got to understand those teachers still had to put food on the table, clothes on the backs of children, and still have to maintain the mortgage, the rent, and all those other bills and finances. So even though there's a majority of, there are teachers leaving, but there are teachers also trying to get in. You gotta believe that because you still have to pay the bills. I'm not saying it's not a scary and not an unknown territory situation. I definitely agree with Mr. Davis, what he said, that we have not been through this before. I definitely agree. And we don't know where it's going, and we don't know how to react. We have to think about how to interact. That's the thing that we're trying to learn, and we're all trying to learn it. Even Molly Spearman is trying to learn how to do this. And she has somebody to report to. She has to talk to the commission, the state committee. You know, even though we don't even have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, how many teachers are that have to stay because this is what they have to do? Am I at 50, almost 51, going to decide that I'm going to go because I don't want to go back to the classroom and decide that I'm going to make my resume and go ahead and try to get another job somewhere else? I'm vested myself and my time. I still have to think about the kids I'm leaving behind. So what is worth it? I'm hoping and I'm praying that I am going to be able to use that virtual learning and my experience to continue to teach and continue to do the very best job that I can If not, then somewhere, somehow be an advocate for virtual learning to continue this fight somewhere.
Okay. All right. Sydney,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
I have two thoughts off of what Augusta said. To go off of another issue with the money is the way South Carolina schools are, like, at the base of the funding is per pupil. And so I think that has to be a big part of what our legislators are trying to figure out, because if we don't offer that in school, then a lot of people are going to choose to go elsewhere. And then all of a sudden these schools are going to lose funding. But on the other hand, if we took all of that money that McMaster tried to give to the private schools and used it properly, then we wouldn't have that situation. And then on the flip side, what Odessa was talking about with the right to work state, we were talking about this right before we went live. Something that we have not seen addressed yet are teacher contracts. And we were required to sign our contract at the beginning of the summer. Almost every teacher signs their contract right at the end of the school year. The way South Carolina law is written is if a teacher resigns after signing their contract, the school district that they work for can issue a complaint to the South Carolina School Board and have our license revoked. I have not seen any talk on the state level or in any district level in protecting teachers' rights to resign for the year in the midst of this crisis. So we are seeing teachers weigh the option of having to walk away from this career indefinitely, potentially, or risk their lives. And, you know, someone like me, I can weigh the cost and say, okay, for 1 year, I'm going to sacrifice seeing my family and I'm going to take this risk to walk into a school because my kids need me. But then there are other teachers that do not have that luxury. We have teachers that are high risk, that would literally be fearful for their lives walking through those doors. And South Carolina has not addressed the fact that if they choose not to do that, not to put their lives in extreme danger, they have the potential of losing their teaching license. And that is an issue that I have not seen addressed on any level yet. Now, the state can waive that. The state, you can petition to have that, to have someone look at it, and then the state can say, no, these were extreme circumstances. But I have not seen anywhere in writing that is saying that they are going to protect teachers' rights to protect themselves, because we are a right to work state. So they have technically every right to pull that from us. And, you know, teachers do not have a lot of rights in this state. And so for me, knowing that so many people on my team, you know, people I love and care for, are now having to weigh that cost, it's terrifying for a lot of teachers. And, you know, I think most teachers can agree with me. Like, I have put thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of my own money into my classroom. I pay for my own professional development during the summertime. Like, this career is my passion. It's my life. I don't have a family of my own. I'm single. I don't have any kids. So my kids, my classroom, that is my family. And so it's not just a job. But on the other side of it, we are professionals and deserve to be treated as professionals. A lot of times people will use that, oh, it's a passion and you knew what you were walking into. Yeah, all of that is true, but we are still professionals. We deserve to be paid like professionals, and we deserve the respect of professionals, because in any other job, you are treated with far more respect. The only other job that compares to this are nurses.
So you mentioned about contracts, like these contracts, were they signed at the end of the school year, or were they signed like in the middle of, like, between March and, you know, and right before the end of the school year? Like,
every school did it differently. And honestly, like the last however many months are a complete blur. I think I signed mine in March, but I can't remember. But every school district does their own, you know, does it differently.
right, and that's the thing, and that's the thing that my heart goes out to y'all. And the teacher profession is I've learned that it's a very passionate thing. I know you guys don't choose to be teachers just to be a teacher. Like you actually want to be a teacher. And I've always felt like that you all deserve any and everything that you need to make your job better. If I had any decision making powers, I would do everything in my power to make sure that that happens. Um, and so, has there has there has there been any decisions made about as far as if a child or anybody contracts the virus? Um, how's that going? Has there been any decisions on how that's going to work? Like, if a child gets the virus, are they gonna go home and be quarantined for 2 weeks? And so my thing, I'm just thinking this all out, like live. If you're quarantined for 2 weeks, you're gonna be sick for 2 weeks, so you can't do work for 2 weeks. Uh, Also, like they come back. There I've seen little reports here and there that people that has had the coronavirus had contracted the virus again. And so you're talking about a student that could go to school, come back, get it again, and go be sick again and be gone for an entire month. Um, has has there been any decisions made as far as like how they're going to handle contractions of the virus? And
I
this is
think
open to
that
anybody.
districts are making those plans.
Trying to.
But like CCSD put out their plan the other day, and it's like it had bullet points, but it didn't spell things out like in paragraph form. So a lot of us still don't know what to expect. So
Okay,
I don't know.
I want to go ahead and get Lachey in there because I know you
Yeah.
got to go.
So we have, and I was a part of our task force in our district. And when I tell you, I have some great things to say about my district when it comes to planning for all of this, because we literally looked at every single aspect of what it, and it was a little frustrating because sometimes when we were talking, all the what ifs led back to us saying, okay, we just really don't need to come back to school, because no matter what, somebody could contract COVID, and that'll send a ripple effect, kind of like the rock thrown in the water. Like it's still, no matter what plan you come up with, it's still, COVID is still there. There's no vaccine, so it's nothing that we can really do. But one of the biggest things is making sure we had a lot of conversation about making sure that we're following CDC guidelines. And so in our conversation, if children or a child or a teacher contracts COVID, we have to follow those guidelines when it comes to students or teachers being quarantined for 10 to 14 days. And then as a teacher, I ask those questions about students missing work or teachers losing we had questions at our school board about teachers who, do they have to take sick leave? Because if you're gone for more than the amount of sick leave you have, then, then what? What happens then? So our HR department has done a really good job of creating a plan for that. But still, you just never know, because like you said, somebody could come back, they could get infected again, and then they're back out. So no matter what, kids will still, if they contract COVID, they're still going to miss out on learning, because from my understanding, people who've had it, they don't have the energy to sit at a computer and even go to school virtually if they're at home down and out with the flu or whatever. So they're still going to miss out on learning. But there have been conversations in my area about what to do, how to handle those situations. But again, it's still a dead end, because no matter what, we have to follow those CDC guidelines to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, and that's the thing you said. You brought up an interesting point. And it's just crazy how all this is going on. It's because to me it's going to take a lot of management. And like, how are you going to monitor all the students? How are you going to monitor what they do in the hallways? Then I thought of an element, and I don't know if, and maybe you guys can kind of cue me in on that. I thought of the dynamic of bullying, like,
Mhm.
you know, with COVID, like, you guys know we love our kids, but some of
Mhm.
them can be a little mean.
Now,
And mhm,
I just to go back real quick with managing, some of the schools across the state don't even have nurses. I know we were sitting at the board meeting and we need about 200 plus nurses in our schools across the state. So some of the schools don't even have nurses. When you think about a nurses station, you have kids that have bloody noses or they're throwing up and all this and that. And we have one small nurses unit or one small room that those kids have to go in. Well, you have a teacher or a child that is having COVID symptoms. Now you have to have more than one space in that building, which we don't have. But you have to have more than one space for kids who are just sick. Maybe their tooth fell out because in elementary school, everybody wants to get the little white tooth from the nurse. And then you have to have another space where we have to quarantine those kids until the parent picks them up, if the parent comes to pick them up. So it's just even more, because you can call a parent now, or a few months ago, you could call a parent and say, hey, your child has a fever. You have to come pick them up because they can't be in the building. That parent may not come until they get off work, until they feel
off from work.
yeah. So you run into all those different issues when it comes to trying to manage it, and then spilling over into the bullying aspect and making sure you're in guideline with not going against someone's rights. I had a conversation a few days ago. If someone in the household tests positive for COVID, they're not even allowed. The nurse in our district let us know that they're not even allowed. It's not mandatory for them to notify the school that someone in that tested positive for COVID. So a child can come into my classroom and their parent tested positive 2 days ago, but they don't even have to report to the school and let us know. So we won't find out until that child is now sick, showing symptoms, and now has exposed everybody else. And then when it comes to bullying, when kids do find out, they might want to pick on you because some kids just don't have empathy. And then on the flip side, some kids use it as a joke. They might take their mask off. They might run around saying, "Oh, you have COVID." If a child sneezes, now it's not bless you. It's like, "Ooh, And then the kids are talking about each other. So it's for me, it's
Yes.
frustrating when you have people making decisions who have never probably stepped foot in the classroom, or they have no idea of what a day is like for a teacher in a classroom of 18 to 20 kids. When you get to middle school, sometimes you have 32 kids in the class. So it's a little frustrating, but I think that, in my opinion, we have to do what's safe for our kids right now. And I'm not opposed, like I think Vanessa said, eventually going back face to face, because we want to. Like, I love being in the classroom. I love being in the building, interacting with other adults, other teachers who are in my profession. Like, I actually miss those. I'm a very social being, but we have to understand that we have to do what's safe until that time comes. And I'm sorry, I do have to step away. I had an hour and a half blocked off for this. So thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you.
I was so happy to meet you, Odessa and Sydney. Please,
Nice to meet you,
Facebook, so we can stay connected. But I'll see you all later.
All right, you take care.
All right, Lachey, thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And also, what I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
add on to what she was saying, Shay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, make sure I unmuted my mic. One of the reasons why we would not be able to get notified if a child comes in there, of course, there's HIPAA laws. And it's just like, when you go into a doctor's office and you're at the doctor's office and I'm not even related to you, not even your wife, unless you sign that document, then I can't even find out what's wrong with you.
That's true.
So, it's protective of that child, just like I can't just tell everybody in my class who has a 504 or who has an IEP and what's going on with that. So those laws are in place to protect not only, the person, who's sick or who has an issue, who has circumstances, who needs services, but also to protect everybody else too. So because of those laws that are in place, they would limit us from even knowing. They would only tell us teachers, on a need to know basis. So we don't necessarily need, you wanted to say something?
No, I was gonna say, so you guys, am I hearing you correctly that you guys won't even know if A, B, or C student has the virus?
They don't need to tell us because we wouldn't actually know. Because if the child has symptoms and
Oh my God.
if the nurse calls, because you got to think about this, it's not just like, okay, you're going home. Okay. Odessa, you're going home because you got sniffles and you don't feel good and you have a headache. I'm your teacher. I think you might have COVID, Odessa. I'm just a teacher. So the nurse is going to call my parents, and then she's going to decide. The nurse is going to make that decision. Okay. The nurse does not have to share what she shared with the parents, okay, with me, unless critical for my understanding and my teaching.
Wow.
That's something that does not need to be shared.
So you might hear through hearsay that Johnny or
Yeah.
Lisa, you know, like
Right.
one of the students will be in the hallway, like, yeah, Lisa has coronavirus, you know.
Right.
Wow.
So unless it becomes regulated like it was when, if there was something, remember when meningitis was a big thing, and then the school had to send a thing out to everybody's parents, there has been an episode of meningitis on our campus. Depending on what they decide. If they decide that, then still we won't know, you won't know, but there has been an incident of an exposure of meningitis or an incident of exposure or COVID. You still won't know who the child is because maybe there is a string of children. Remember, we got what, 500 something kids in our school. And if there's 12 kids sitting home, am I going to decipher and say, call 12 parents? No, because that's really bordering on the line of confidentiality. And then you still have to think about it. Okay, who's going to be looking? Everybody's going to be looking. Oh my gosh, you got COVID, you got COVID. And then think, you're going to decide to treat somebody differently because of what you think they may have.
Exactly.
So you don't want to instigate any situations, okay? And you don't want to treat somebody different because of any situation. So therefore, you don't need to know.
So in like even like what you're saying is like, you're gonna kind of know what's up if somebody's gone for 2 weeks. You're gonna be like,
not necessarily, because
really?
The fact that there also are shots that kids need to have. Okay. And so if those kids don't come to school with their shots, they have been taken out of school for 2 weeks at a time because they can't come back until they have their shots. So you will not know. You don't know if it's COVID. You know, those shots that they came up with, especially for the females or whatever, and whatever they're supposed to have before they come. There's these shots now that they don't, like when you come in to show your proof of residence, they should also have that you show that you had this shot. And they don't say that you have to have that with registration anymore. So if the nurse doesn't find out until like September or whatever that you didn't get this shot, then you automatically get a letter saying if you don't have it by Tuesday, then you got to stay home until it's get done. So you don't.
Right.
So you don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're not gonna know, but I'm thinking about like the kids. Like the kids are gonna be looking. They're just gonna be looking to their left and right, and they'll be like,
but
you know,
that's
Johnny's
the thing.
not here.
Last
Bobby's
year,
not,
you know how many kids? We had like 30 kids out, maybe more, maybe less, because they did not have their shots. And with all the kids that you have, you think about these bigger schools that you have to get your shots. And if you don't have them, you can't go to school.
Wow.
But kind of like to play off of what you're saying, though, kids are just going to assume or make jokes or whatever. I see what you're saying there.
And see, and that's the other thing. That's where it comes down. What I was talking about earlier when I first started is to educate, because just to educate our kids when we had those first few days about characteristics and expectations about what you have and what you expect those kids to have when they come into your classroom. The same thing goes. So for me in my classroom, if I expect you to do A, B, and C, I expect you to do A, B, and C. So it's that teacher's responsibility or that adult's responsibility who's in that classroom of what you allow those kids to do.
Well, and then we, just like we have to take the bloodborne pathogens every year, we need to treat every child with universal precaution and say, because we don't know who's got what or who's been exposed. A lot of times people don't even know they've been exposed for a long time, especially if they're not showing symptoms. So we need to act. If we go back into the building, we have to, in a way, act like every single person in that building has COVID, because there's no way to know for sure who does or does not.
Right, yeah. And back to the bullying aspect, I'm just envisioning, like, just started going through scenarios. I was laying in my head. I was laying in my bed, and I was sitting there like, what if somebody has like the coolest mask? And somebody like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they're like, I think I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? And,
Dude, just talking about the
so
mask.
that is the thing that just kind of
In an elementary school, like, I look at every toy, I look at everything that walks into my classroom, and I think about it from the perspective of what is a 4-year-old or a first grader or second grader going to do with this item? And when I see a mask from the 4-year-old's perspective, I see a slingshot. And so you better believe they're going to be putting those dirty, nasty, snotty tissues into those masks and slingshotting them across the room. And you can have the absolute best classroom management ever, and you're still going to have kids that act out. Like, there's not a classroom in this nation where there's not a kid that acts out, So there's certain things that are outside of your control, especially when you're dealing with young children.
Yeah, she lost power. We lost Odessa, and you're in the dark.
I am. The sun is starting to set.
So I guess, like, by default, we're almost getting knocked off live. So, but so yeah, these are definitely. Odessa, can you come back on? Oh, your computer went out. Okay, I got you. Oh, you lost power, like power. Oh, wow. Odessa lost power, like in the house. No. And it's funny that we're like having a show and then Odessa calls me. I'm like, I'm looking at my phone, I'm like, do I answer this or not? Odessa, why you call me? You could have called Talina. I'm just messing with you. So, but no, y'all. So these are definitely, we could be, there's so many dynamics to school reopenings. And like most of the districts, they're all starting with virtual. But I kind of want to take, since now in your districts, Sydney, they're starting with virtual as well.
Well, we don't really know yet, which is terrifying because Charleston has some of the highest numbers in South Carolina. What our board is voting on technically is not virtual. It's some sort of blended hybrid. And that's what they're going to vote on. They had the first reading last week, and then this coming week they should be voting on it. But they have said that they're not going to send us back in person if the numbers stay where they are. But I guess we just have to take their word for that because that's not what they're voting on. So I don't know. I know that I've talked to a lot of parents that have looked at the information that has come out, and they still feel lost and confused, and they don't really understand the options that our district is giving them. And unfortunately, I don't really know how to guide them because, and I don't know if it's just because we don't know what the numbers are going to look like and they're still trying to figure it out. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, teachers go
Wow.
back in a few weeks, and the district has said that we're going to wait until September 8th for kids to come back, which gives us a little bit of extra time. But parents still don't know what's going on, and so that's really scary.
Right, as a whole, and we're about to end the show.
Mhm.
And thank you for coming on, and
Thank you
Odessa
for
and
having me.
AJ. Like, and this is like part one, because we could keep talking. I was just on the last show we had. I was like, there's so many dynamics about this whole thing that we could be talking on this live for hours. And
Hmm.
so, we'll have this talk, and I'd love to have you on again. If if you would like to come back on, we'd love to have you.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I love your dialogue. And so there's just so much dialogue. But Sydney, I want to thank you for coming on House Harley
Of
Radio.
course.
And
Thank you
and
for
it's like
having me.
your background's getting darker by the
It
second.
is. I have to do it outside because I have two dogs that do not let me talk on the phone. And so if I was trying to do this inside, all you would see is my golden doodle and hear him, and it's just chaotic. So I have to find a quiet place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, trust me, I don't know if y'all heard the background, but my son, he was playing around with the microwave. He was like doo doo, slamming the microwave. So it's all good. But thank you for your time, Sydney. Odessa's trying to talk to me, and it's like, yeah, talk to Talina. But thank you, Sydney. Go ahead and go deal with those dogs and everything. Please be safe, and you will be in my prayers. I'm
Thank
praying for
you.
y'all teachers every single day. And I pray that our deciders and people that make the decisions do the right thing, uh, uh, not only for the start of the school year, but for the rest of the school year. So again, thank you, Sydney, and be blessed.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you. So so good. Yeah, we're still live, and like everything is like dying. But that must be a sign from the Lord that we probably need to go ahead and sign off. And it's all good. What'd she say? I'm waiting. I can talk a little bit more. Tie a bow around what we all discussed. It's kind of blue. Can we hear her? Odessa? So Sydney had to go because her background was getting darker and darker and darker, and all I saw was the white glasses and the gray hat that she had on. I can hear you. You got to get back on the Zoom. Do you have Zoom on your phone? If you click on your phone, you can get back in, click on the link from the link that I gave you. You can come right back in on your phone. Have it on your phone. I think you do. Yeah, so we'll keep going. Hopefully, we can get on. We'll keep talking. Oh, I see her. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. House of Harley Radio. Thank y'all for tuning in. Technology is a trip. I have to say that technology is definitely a trip. Um, there you go.
I'm back. Sorry.
She's back like she never left.
Back like I never left. Go ahead and say
yes.
Back like I never left.
Yes.
Sorry, my
I was just, go ahead.
Where we at?
Oh no. So Sydney had to go, it was getting dark. I was like, you need to go ahead and get out of there. It's too dark.
Right. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to say hi to her. I mean, bye.
Yeah, bye. Yeah, so I was just telling Talina as we're about to wrap up the show. There's just so many different dynamics that have to be considered. Like we got the virtual model, and I'm not sure if maybe too much time was focused on the different scenarios, because I'm worried about, because there were 3 scenarios, that the one that we're going to start with may not be ready and prepared like it should be. I feel like, at least the district I'm in, I feel like we might be very behind, and I'm worried about that. As a parent, I'm worried that we might be too far behind, because even like when this all busted out open, you had the what there was e-learning, but it was mostly like pretty much just handing out assignments and not really teaching. And so I wonder if that model just is it foolproof, and is it, as a parent, that's one thing that I'm worried about. And because, like I said, like AJ was saying, we started this. It was happening in March, and here we are, and it's like July, and I feel like there's just way too many questions that need to be answered at this point.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I truly do. And since we're all learning this, I think the best thing is for teachers to do one of 2 things. Either go ahead and log online and learn something about e-learning so they can get a better grasp on what they need to do, or reach out to somebody who is a e-learning teacher or educator already so they can do these things. Even though there's a lot of people who were not teaching new things, I was one of the teachers who needed to teach new things because my students were going into accelerated or going into algebra class. So I was able to actually teach, and I taught through platforms of sharing the computer, using Zoom, using Teams, and also helping them to understand it by looking at graphs and charts, and have them listening to things through, whether I had a platform of YouTube or whatever the case may be. So it is a interesting concept of how to virtually teach, and is a thing that the kids can actually get into. Because if you know the right things to do, you can actually get the kids to manipulate the tools, and you can actually see them right on the screen as well. So it's those things that you need to know and you need to learn. So there was one kid actually controlling my computer. He knew a little bit more than me as far as the technology aspect of it, and I would tell him, and I know exactly who it was, wait until I tell you to do A, B, and C. So that's what I suggest. I suggest, if the teachers do not understand how to teach through e-learning and virtual learning, like I said, either go on and teach yourself or reach out to somebody who is a virtual educator or a teacher and then learn from them, because that's the best way we're going to learn it. And I think this is going to be one of the norms, virtually teaching. So to get that concept and get all those different services that they have that you can learn, especially through our district, we can go through True North Logic to do a lot of the different things that they have available for free to do these different platforms to teach and reach kids through different apps and things, and Flipgrid and all these other things, to spark the learning and continue the creativity. And don't stop there, and look for something else that the kids can do. I was watching Twitter. I'm a Twitter fan, and there's other teachers in the district, or the people I follow outside the district, whatever, and they're putting scavenger hunts on Twitter for the kids and stuff like that. So keep it active and keep their minds engaged and keep them in tune with things. So, we got to be lifelong learners to deal with this, because if this is going to be the new norm, how can I teach you? And we can get it virtually. I can still figure out how I can connect with you if I can't actually touch you.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I really do think it's possible. I think in our society, we're so closed-minded because we're used to what we're used to. Is like whatever we've been doing, we want to keep doing that. And it's hard for us to change. And it's like, with me being in the IT field is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. So we kind of have to be on our toes, and we have to be open and to anything that changes that might make our processes better, or something that you might have to sit back and learn, like you said, go out and learn more and see the different ways of how you're going to do this. Because my honest opinion, if somehow the deciders go and say, we're going to do this thing 5 days a week face to face, I don't see schools staying open. It's going to get shut right back down, especially like South Carolina. South Carolina, because we're a hotspot. So,
but I think you're right. But also take advantage of those virtual opportunities. Parents have virtual opportunities. If not, you can make math happen. You can make social studies, ELA happen. You can make science happen. You can make gym happen within your own confines of your house or your apartment or your living space. You can make things happen where you are, and just engage the children now, and don't wait until school starts. So just go on and do those things now. Have the kids count the tiles of the floor and then divide them to see how many tiles of the floor are divisible by 3. Are they divisible by 4? Divisible by 5? How can they be balanced, with a scientific scale? Go ahead and do that. Have them talk about the differences between tile floors and wood floors. Have them talk about bathroom over an outhouse. Talk about social studies. Talk about your great grandfather. When you're out there picking that fruit and vegetables, ask him, what do you think it would feel like if they were picking and it was in Mississippi with the different temperatures? Get them thinking about, okay, because they would not want to be out there if it's 110,000 degrees versus 86 or 92 degrees. Get them thinking and learning. And then bring that corn and all other stuff to the house. Go ahead.
We got a lot. So
you got that?
I was telling Sydney that we'll I thought you said something. I was just telling Sydney that we can go on and on for hours
Yeah.
with this, and You know, I just wanted to focus on, because the
Yeah.
other dynamic, and I don't even want to open that can of worms, is, that we didn't talk about, is those parents that, you know, they have to go to work, and
Yeah.
the home security, because predators are going to know kids are going to be home. You know, there's so many.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do, and so, but Odessa, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bearing with me. This whole technical stuff,
Yeah,
you know,
you're
it has its
welcome.
way sometimes.
No problem.
And we'll definitely have this conversation again, and we'll love that.
Yes.
We'll love to have and thank you for supporting me, my kids, and thank you for supporting House Harley Radio.
HOH.
That's right, baby. That's what we do,
That's
baby.
Right. HOH.
That's right,
That's what
baby.
we do.
Yeah. Selena's like, she's like, no.
Have a nice night.
All right, you take care of this. Thank you. Mhm.
Bye.
So there you have it. House Harley Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, there's so many dynamics to this whole thing. I did want to, before we go, we did have some folks that was commenting, and I wanted to kind of give them, you know, their shine about what they said about everything that's going on, or about what we talked about on the show today. Um, so I'm looking at Facebook Live comments. Latasha Washington, she said, think about it, it's impossible to stand 6 feet away without comforting, making kids feel like we can't touch. Not in a bad way, but in, you know, it will be hard to help them in trying to be social distant. Yeah, it's like, and I know what you're saying. I know you're saying like not in a weird, like nasty way, but you know, it's hard. It was even hard, like even when this whole thing happened, like we said the other day, that the kids in my neighborhood, they were already playing with each other and running around, touching and grabbing and chasing each other, sitting next to each other. And I'm, as a parent, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, like, what are y'all doing? You know, so there's just so much. There are so many dynamics that are out there that it's just, it's hard. And so I want to give a shout out to, you know, the members of the school board and the task force, Molly Spearman and all of them, everybody that's making the decisions. And you know, I know this is something that you didn't see coming, and you know, and I know this is something that you weren't prepared for, and I'm grateful that you guys have been working diligently. I I know you guys had a lot of sleepless nights, and going to bed late, waking up early to deal with this thing. And I know you've been dealing with it since March on the decision to close the schools and e-learning. I just know it has just been a rough few weeks for you guys. So um, I just definitely want to shout out to all of y'all. Um, you guys are doing a good job, have done a good job with what you guys have been given thus far. And you know, it's just that the only thing that I'm asking for everybody that's making the decisions to definitely, and I know that's your number one thing, to keep, you know, our children in mind while we're dealing with this coronavirus pandemic, and that, you know, you all continue or do the right thing and make the right decisions. Um, we could be talking forever, but next week on House Harley Radio, we'll be talking to the parents. We're gonna have the parents, and they're gonna give us their take on, you know, how they feel about schools reopening, and the information that they have thus far. And you know, and it's going to be very spirited because there's some parents that actually agree. They had their children in public schools, but they actually agree with what the governor did with the $32 million given to private schools. So um, that'll be a very interesting show. And I'm gonna put some holy water, not on, and I'm not gonna douse everything with holy water, but I'm just gonna make sure my technical stuff is working because I want this show to go off without a hitch, and it's gonna be a very good show. So thank you guys for tuning in, Selena C. My prayers up to you and your family, and can I put the camera on you for a second? Yeah, because it was like, yeah, I want everybody to see your face. That beautiful face of yours. Just yeah, I know. And you're definitely a trooper for coming on. I wasn't expecting you to come on, but thank you for being a trooper for coming on um, during that, you know, this time. So prayers up to you. Um, so tune in next week. Look out for our flyers. We got a lot going on. We'll be broadcasting. We're back, House Harley Radio. We're back like we never left. We right here. We right here, baby. We ain't left. We back to work and we're ready to go. So we are out. House Harley Radio. We are signing out. Let's go. Let's get on up out of here.